Hey, 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 happy Monday, y'all. And welcome to our final part in this series. But this is my live I do with you every Monday. A time I come every Monday, 7 p.m. EST, to talk three things: faith, purpose, and profit. And this is for all of you that know, like you know, that you want to live as the highest and best version of who God created you to be. And you want to start a business as you do it. So, my goal every Monday is to align biblical principles with your entrepreneurial journey. So, as you're coming in, number one, tell me hello, tell me where you're from. If, as I share, I am saying things that resonate with you, I want to know. If I'm stepping on your toes, I want to know that too. I want to hear from you and I want to definitely want you to participate. Listen, if you've ever seen me at church or you ever sit next to me at church, you know that I'm loud. I'm loud because the preacher's not there preaching for themselves. They're preaching for me or you or whoever's listening. In the same way, I'm not here to talk to myself. I'm here for you. So whether you're here live or you come back and watch the replay, I want to hear from you. So make sure you're sharing in the comment section. All right. So with that, this is the final part of a four-part series, which was called Do You Know Your Power? Now, it was based on this Bible verse. I'm going to pull it up here. Now, to him who's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that works in us. Now, you see the power that works in us is underlined. What's interesting is how many of us, me included, say this Bible verse all the time and we focus on exceedingly abundantly above all, but we don't even look at the section that says, according to the power that works in us. See, God has already given us the tools, the ammunition to do and to live exceedingly abundantly above all. But we've got to do it according to the power that works in us. So, a quick review. Those of you that have missed, and by the way, let me put this on the screen. If you've missed any of the episodes, because this is part 4, I want to encourage you to go back and watch it. Why? Because the way I teach, one builds on the next. My goal is to be here 30 minutes or less with you while I'm live on Mondays. All right. So, quick review. And you see it there scrolling down at the bottom of your screen. You can see each of these the 3 parts that you've missed on my YouTube channel at nrjnetwork.com. All right. So part 1 was, what does it mean to stand in your power? And it's really a conversation around your purpose. I wonder if you realize that God gave you purpose. That purpose is meant to give you power, right? Hey, C. Marie. Okay. So that was part 1. Then part 2 in our series, I talked to you from the subject of coming in hot. Now, what's interesting is in that particular episode, I talked to you about the 3 reasons an outlet may be coming in hot. And what you may not even realize, and I didn't realize this either until my girlfriend's house got set on fire. And sometimes we are doing things that are making us come in hot with our purpose, in our power. So in that episode, I walked you through the 3 reasons that an outlet can be coming in hot and what that has to do with your purpose and why you probably don't even realize you could be coming in hot. Then week 3, which was a few weeks ago, I talked to you about let me upgrade you. And it's really the signs that you need an upgrade. How many times, those of you my iPhone users in the house, this probably happens with smartphones too, but I don't have a smartphone, I have an iPhone. When you're out, the iPhone is ready to upgrade, it just starts doing crazy stuff and it stops working. It does, So I walked you through what an iPhone, a smartphone can teach you that also shows you how you need to upgrade so that you are standing in your full power. See, I'm not here for the 20% that many of you are in, and many of you will die with 20% when God has already given you 100%. And I said this in our last episode. I'm going to say it again. This is not about who you already are. Who you are is great. And I might have said this in the first episode. I don't remember. Who you already are is great. But if you were done, you would no longer be here. If you're still on earth, God has more for you to do. So that's why I'm going to encourage you to go watch the first three parts. If you haven't watched them, again, it's scrolling at the bottom of our screen. You can go watch it on our YouTube channel as I start to talk to you about part four, our final part in this series. And that is, are you in a blackout? Now, by the way, y'all, I don't know if blackout is one word or two. So if I'm being grammatically incorrect, roll with me. Pay less attention to my grammar. Pay more attention to what I'm teaching you. All right. So I need you to get this. I see other people are joining, so say hello as you're coming in. Okay. So what's interesting is many of you are in a blackout. Do you guys remember years ago when New York, all of New York City had a blackout? The entire city was shut down. And many of you, you feel unfulfilled, or you feel bored, or you feel like something is missing, or you feel all these things and you don't understand. The reason those things are happening is because you are in a blackout. You're not in your power. And God is only going to tell you so long before he takes your gift and gives it to somebody else. Mhm. So if you're ever feeling unfulfilled or disconnected, or like you have no meaning, or you feel dissatisfied or empty, or you feel like something is missing, all those things means that you are in a blackout. Hey, Denise. All right. And so, by the way, y'all, as I'm coming in, if this is getting good, share it, because other people in your tribe may need this. All right. So before I start to talk to you about the signs or some insight around your blackout, so you can identify if this is where you are, let me give you our foundational Bible verse. You know, I do this every time. You're the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand. And it gives light to all who are in the house. Hey, Nicole, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. So you're the light of the world. But the problem is when you're not standing in your full power, hey, Pat, then you're not being a light. Need y'all to get this. Need you to understand this. Here's the problem here. Okay. Here's the problem here. We feel our way along as if we are blind, as if we were blind. We stumble at noon as if it were night. We can, I'm sorry, I'm getting so excited, y'all. Let me start over. We feel our way along as if we were blind. We stumble at noon as if it were night. We can see no better than someone dead. Some of y'all are going to have to let that sit with you for a minute. So if God wants us to be light, that means that around us, everything around us, everything we touch should have an illumination factor. But when you're in a blackout, you are walking around as if you were blind. That's why I did part one, where I really talked to you about what your power is, because many of you are walking around blind and not even knowing that you have power. That's why week two, I talked to you about coming in hot, because some of you guys are doing too much and are overextending yourself. Hello, somebody. And then that's why I talked to you in our last episode about you need an upgrade, because some of you are trying to stay here and you're operating at this level when God has this level. He's waiting for you to go after. And many of you are just plain old walking in the dark. So I need you to take some time. I'm going to walk you through a few areas that you could be in. And I want you to identify where you are and have a real conversation with yourself about where you are in your life, because I want you to get this. Let me I need you to understand this. This whole conversation about do you know your power is because God has work for you to do. You have been chosen. If you weren't chosen, you would have never been born. You were brought here for purpose, on purpose, with purpose. The question is, are you standing in the full power of it? Or are you only in 5, 10, even 20? Many people that I meet are only at 20%. And if we're grading it, you guys remember being graded back in high school? If we're grading it, what's 20%? Isn't that an F? So even if you feel like you're at 50%, that would still be an F. 60 is a D. Do I need to keep going? I need you to push that needle forward so that you're operating in your full power. And the problem is, it's not it from episode one where I walked you through, or episode two, or episode three. This is where you are because you don't realize you're in a blackout. I see more of you are joining, so say hello. So let me walk you through the three areas that you might be suffering in and you don't even know it. And if any of this sounds like you, guess what? You in a blackout. Number one, you could be in a power outage. Now, and the thing I love about doing these things, y'all, is when I have to look up this stuff because I am not an electrician. I am not someone that can fix a house, right? So let me tell you why a power outage happens. Okay, a power outage typically happens due to large scale power grid failure. So coming in hot was one version of it, but this is when it's severely overloaded. You get that? And while the lack of electricity doesn't usually cause any issue, the return to connection often can. So coming in hot is too much, and so it causes a fire. This one, it's a lack of electricity. You get that? So here is how you know that you are in a power outage. You ready? Can I keep it real? Number one, you're living from the outside in instead of the inside out. You focus on all the outside things, on the material things, on perception. That's all outside. When God could care less about any of that outside. If you've been with me for a while, you know, a few months ago, I did a conversation about God does not care if you buy Gucci. You know why I did that? Because so many people say, oh, well, well, let me just keep it all the way real. Can I keep it all the way real? So many people afraid to tell people that they're Christian because they like nice things. I like nice things too. And yes, I have a Mercedes, and yes, I have a Gucci or two. But that's not my focus. Not. I live from the inside out. My goal is that when I die and get to meet God face to face, He will be proud of everything I've done. That's me focused on my inside. The outside stuff is just like gifts for good service. When I work hard, I treat myself, but I don't focus on that. I don't focus on perception. I don't focus on who knows my name. I don't focus on the stages I get on. I remember when this is real talk. I remember when my last book came out and I had a publicist and she did this whole press conference in New York, right? And Essence was there and Jet Magazine and Black Enterprise and some other magazines were there. And when I got to the front to start, do you know what I said first? I said I could care less if anybody knows my name. I could care less if I get any magazines or any TV shows. And my publicist was looking like this in the back, like, oh my God. I said, what I care about is the transformation this book can be for the person that reads it. Big difference. So you've got to understand, what's your focus? Are you focused on outside and being seen? Are you focused on perception? Or are you focused on your calling, on your purpose, on the thing God has crafted and created you to do? There is a difference. So you got to live from the inside out instead of the outside in. If you're living from the outside in, you have a power shortage. Come on, somebody. Number two, you focus on your career rather than listening to your calling. Now, some of you guys are in this place and don't even realize it. You know, and I will tell you, this has been a place that sometimes I can find myself here too. Because as long as we're in the flesh, there are times when I feel like I should be at a certain place or I should be doing certain things in my business, and God has told me something different, and I'll go back to doing the thing that I think should be done when God has already told me something different about my calling. And some of you guys don't even know that at all. And so you're functioning in a dark place because you don't have direction, focus, or understanding. So you do the thing the world tells you to do. I believe I said this a couple episodes ago, Romans 12, I believe it's 2. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So instead of you focus on the list you wrote out in your 20s of the career, the house, the 2.5 kids, this is what I did, all the things, and you say focused on that, what if God shifts that? Or actually, you know what's interesting is even in my own life, when I look at the career that I started with, God just expanded the territory of my gift. But I had to listen to my calling and not focus on my career. And then again, I had to live from inside out, because outside my friends are like, Nicole, are you crazy? And because I felt crazy. And sometimes God will have you in places and make you feel crazy. Yeah, my allergies are acting up, so I apologize. I'm scratching my nose so much, right? So I'm sure people thought Abraham was crazy. When God told him to leave everything he knew and move and go into a land he didn't know, or maybe Mary, Jesus's mom, uh-huh, when she was pregnant but hadn't had sex. I know people are like, okay, Mary, okay, girl, you pregnant, but you still a virgin, okay. There are times that it may sound crazy to everybody else, but it's not anybody else's business but you and God. And the minute you stop caring about perception and focus on what you thought your career aspiration should be, or what your mother or cousin or auntie or whoever thought it should be, and you listen to your calling, you'll get out of darkness and you move into light. Come on, power outage. Last one is fighting to do only what is convenient. Matter of fact, listen, I was reading in one of my, so funny, I read a bunch of different devotionals. So one of y'all go ask me what devotional this is. I don't know. But when I have a good note in one of my devotionals, I keep it. Ooh, my nose is running like crazy. Okay, anyway. Of course, it's doing this now because I'm on live with y'all, right? But I'm transparent, so you'll see me rubbing my nose. Just my nose is running. I'm trying to manage it while I can. So anyway, here's the quote. Our failure to act on what we know God is calling us to do that only breeds doubt and discouragement. Let me say it one more time because somebody didn't get that. Our failure to act on what we know God is calling us to do. Maybe I need to come off so y'all can really hear me. Our failure to act on what we know God is calling us to do only leads to failure and discouragement. Come on, somebody. It's a form of disobedience. You know that thing that's been stirring up and stirring up and stirring up in you, and you just sit on it. And you think of every excuse of why you can't do it, on why it's too hard, on why you don't have the money for it, or why you got to wait for your kids to graduate, or why I remember a woman once told me she needed to lose weight. I'm like, are you teaching weight loss? No, then why do you need to? Right? Nearly 2,000 years ago, Jesus said, go. So why do we operate with this red light mentality? See, Jesus left. When Jesus died, he left the work for us to do. And we're waiting. We sit here waiting at a red light for God to tell us to go. When he told us to go when we were born and he gave us gifts and talents, which is our purpose, and he's waiting for you. Many of you are waiting on God, and for many of you, God is waiting on you. Because your green light was already given. So, why am I saying that? Because listen, you guys have heard me say this. If you've been in my community for a while, your courage and your conviction, excuse me, your your courage and your conviction can never coexist. I don't think that's the way I say it, but that's the way I feel it today. Right? There'll be times you have to do it afraid. Matter of fact, there's a great book by Joyce Meyer called Do It Afraid. If this is what you're suffering with, then go buy that book. Because everybody that's been greatly used by God had to do it afraid. And 9 times out of 10, that fear, that thing is not convenient. Because God is looking to see if you're going to trust him. Not who you know, not your degree, not any of the things that you already have. All of that is great, but God has more for you. So, what you've got to do here is give yourself permission. Stop looking for the world to give you permission. Stop looking for your mom, your cousin, your mate, even your degrees, even your career, even your industry. Stop waiting for those things to give you permission when God gave you permission at birth. Come on, somebody. So that's number one. Are you having a power outage? The number one is maybe there's an interruption in your flow. Maybe there's an interruption in your flow. Okay. Now, there's a couple reasons this can happen. And you guys know this could be a plug and it could be an interruption in your plug. Okay. Which means it's interrupting the power that's going through your plug. You with me? Okay. Hey, Regina. Okay. So you got to realize what could be blocking your flow. Can I tell you what it usually is? The the basic thing that's in, let me just say it this way because this is what I'm thinking in my head. A couple years ago, I stopped eating sugar and I realized sugar was in everything. So anytime you feel an interruption, there's one thing that's definitely in it. Is called the devil, the devil. See, the enemy comes to steal, kill, and to destroy. So he's going to try to block your flow. He's going to try to block your power and keep you from living as the highest and best version of who you were created to be. I've say this all the time, y'all. He comes to steal, kill, and to destroy. Well, I didn't say this. Jesus said it, John 10:10. Then after that, Jesus said The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And then he said, but I have come that you have life and have it more abundantly. So that means that God has already given you the power. You already have the ability to obtain abundance. But if you're going to let the enemy keep you where you are, when you second guess yourself, or you're playing small, or you're sitting in perception, or I can keep going and keep going. But I talked about this in other episodes, y'all. You got to really be clear when the enemy's trying to stop you, and you've got to be willing to fight. Don't take it laying down. You got to be willing to do whatever it takes to be the highest and best version of who God created you to be. Stop waiting for it to be easy. It's not going to be easy. I'm going to tell you right now. Ask Tyler Perry. Ask Oprah. Who else you admire? Ask anybody you greatly admire. Was it easy? They're going to tell you no. Was it worth it? They will tell you yes. And soon enough, I will too. Right? So I said this a few episodes ago. Fear is an alarm. A fear is an alarm, and I believe that alarm comes to tell you the enemy is trying. And then what you need to do is get your spiritual warfare together and fight. This is something that I talk to my clients about all the time as I'm giving them tools to fight. But many of you, instead of letting it be an alarm, just showing you that he's trying, just imagine what happens. Let me say it this way. When you have an alarm in your house, what's the point of an alarm at your house? So it can tell you that somebody broke in. Okay. So what happens when that person breaks in? The police come to stop them from doing what they're doing. So what if you realized that when you feel afraid, it's an alarm telling you to stop the enemy from trying to keep you from going after that thing? And then you got to give whatever tools you need, the police, whatever that is for you in that moment, so that you don't allow it to disarm you, meaning you quit and stop altogether. Does that mean you move from the house because somebody tried to break in? No. Now, when you've decorated it, it's a house of your dreams. You're going to leave just because somebody tried to break in? No. You're going to fight for it. So it's the same invitation that you have now is, are you going to fight? Are you going to fight to live as the highest and best version of who God created you to be? Or are you going to give in to Satan? A great example of this, and I didn't write this story down in, I think it's in Matthew, the 14th chapter. Somebody that's with me, write it out. When Jesus went into the wilderness, and it talks about the fact that the Spirit went into the wilderness. Of course, my Bible, for the first time, I always have my Bible in here, but I don't have it in here tonight. that, hold on, I'm trying to pull up my Bible real quick on my phone. I think it's Matthew, the 14th chapter. Hold on, y'all. Matthew 14. Oh, no, it's not 14. Anyway, it might take me a minute because in my Bible I can thumb through it. So anyway, in Matthew, it talks about that the enemy, the devil, led Jesus into the wilderness. Maybe it's Matthew 4. Hold on, let me look one more time. It is. Yeah, it's Matthew 4. Matthew, the 4th chapter. Then Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. So see, God allowed him to be tempted. See, I think God allows us to go through these things to test if we really want, if we really would do the work, if we really would be committed, if we really will stick to it, if we really would do everything we've got to do to live as the highest and best version of who God created us to be. And so I want you to see, and I'm not going to read all of it because we don't have that kind of time, but go and read Matthew chapter 4, verses 1 through, let me tell you how far it goes down, to 11. Every time the enemy tried to throw Jesus off, now mind you, Jesus has been fasting for 40 days and 40 nights, so the brother was hungry. Imagine not eating for 40 days. I'd be ready to eat a rock. I'd be ready to eat my phone. I'd be hungry. 40 days. I've only fasted one time in my life for 40 days. And let me tell you, I was so skinny, people started saying, Nicole, are you okay? So I realized I can't fast like that again. And I was hungry. I wasn't even hungry. I was hangry. I was hungry, angry, tired, everything. Great spiritual experience, though, I will say. But everything came against me. Okay. So I want you guys to get this. That every time Satan tried to hurl something at Jesus, what Jesus did was fight back with the Bible. So like, for instance, let me go to the first one, and then I'm going to go on to our next. Okay. So devil says to Jesus, this is verse 3, if you are the Son of God, command that these stones become bread. Jesus answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. So what Jesus did was every time the devil tried something, he said, see, it says in the Bible, it said, God said. So what you got to do is be willing to fight. You got to be willing to not allow yourself to stay in the place that the enemy is trying to keep you in. And listen, the place you are in could be nice and cushy because you are already successful, because you already have a house, because you already have the car, all the things, but that's outside. God has more inside for you. He might have some outside stuff for you too. All right. So here's a Bible verse that goes here: stay alert. Watch out for your great enemy, the devil. He prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour. Stand firm against him and be strong in your faith. Remember that your family of believers all over the world is going through the same kind of suffering you are. Now, listen, the Bible is a book of stories of all people that have gone through the similar suffering, similar things, similar. There's somebody in the Bible that's going through what you're going through right now. And just like they had to stay alert, so do we. And so, in this place, what I always like to say, my favorite scene, well, one of my favorite scenes from Black Panther, is when King T'Challa is fighting. This is the first Black Panther, by the way, and he's down. And it looks like he's not going to get up. And Angela Bassett says to him, that's my horrible African accent, y'all. Remember who you are. And then all of a sudden, his power kicks in and he gets up and he wins. He's fighting the Bear King, Jabari. Y'all remember that scene? So when the enemy tries, just like Jesus knew who he was, he knew he was the son of God. He was like, my father said A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You got to be willing to do the same, or else you will stay in the dark. And what happens is the enemy will throw things at you. And for many of you, he's been throwing things at you and throwing things at you and throwing things at you. And so you get deeper down into the dark. It's like a seed that goes down into the ground. Can you imagine how dark it must be in that ground? So the last thing you've got to do, if you realize that you're in a power outage or that you are in a place where you feel like your flow is blocked, is there interruption in your flow, then you've got to flip the switch. Now listen, how many times have you guys had a power outage at your house? A whole power outage. The first thing we do is we go down to the box to try to flip the power back on. Have you ever done that? So many of you need to go to the source to flip your power back on. The source is God. I'm just a conduit. Anybody that is helping pour into you is just a conduit. And I'm literally plugged into the source as well. Y'all with me? So you've got to understand that there are things that will come against you. You've got to be willing to do what it takes to flip on your switch. Now, to give you an illustration of this, and I'm gonna go through this quickly because I've always meant to be here for 30 minutes and I've been here longer. So I'm not gonna read this whole section, John 5, 5 through 9. So this is, let me just read this first part. Now, certain man was there who had an infirmity 38 years. Hello, somebody say 38. Somebody write 38 in the comments. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had already had been in that condition a long time, he said to him, Do you want to be made well? Do you know why Jesus asked him that? Because he'd been sitting there for 38 years. He let himself go through it for 38 years, y'all. So Jesus said, Do you even want to be made well? The sick man answered Jesus and said, Sir, I have no man to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up. But while I'm coming, another steps down before me. So in other words, he's giving Jesus all his excuses of why it's not worked. Jesus said to him, Rise, take up your bed and walk. He said, stop giving me the excuses and get your butt up and make something happen. And immediately the man was made well because he took up his bed and walked. He had been sitting there for 38 years. And many of you are waiting for somebody else or for something else to happen. And then everything is already there for you. You just got to take up your bed and walk. And some of you, that's just the word you needed today. As you've been waiting and praying and waiting and praying, and I'm not sure, and oh my goodness, and I don't know. Well, yeah, God, Jesus is like, do you want to start your business? Do you want to be made well? Do you want to have the abundantly above all that I have created for you with your name on it? Then I need you to take action. It doesn't happen just because you're gifted. It doesn't happen just because you want it. You've got to be willing to do what it takes to go and get it. So that's our conversation for today. And I need you guys to get this. Many of you are waiting for the right time. Well, this is your right time. You know the signs on the freeway that said if you lived here, you'd be home by now. Well, this is a sign to tell you that this is your right time because it's never going to be right time. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be ideal. Never, ever. God's not going to make it convenient or easy. Just like you told that man, do you want to be made well? Do you really want to get healed? Because you just laying here and you making all the excuses of why it's not working instead of you doing what it takes to make it work. So are you going to do what it takes to stand in your full power? Are you going to play smart? Are you going to play good enough? Are you willing to commit to a higher version of you? That's been the whole purpose of our whole series. So whether this is your first time with us or you've been with all four, I would love to hear your comments below as to what you're committed to doing and how you're going to live as the highest and best version of who God created you to be. Because God is only going to wait for so long and He's going to assign your gift to somebody else that's going to take up their bed and do what it takes to be the answer to the group of people that are waiting for them. All right. So I'll be back with you next Monday. We're starting a new series. A new series next week. It's always my honor and privilege to be here. If this has been of value to you, though I know many of you watch the replay. So as you come into the replay, please make comments because I come back and read every single comment on the replays. But as you watch the replays, if this is valuable, can you please do me a favor and share it? Again, I don't ask you to share because I'm trying to grow my following. I'm not trying to do that. But what I am trying to do is to be obedient to my calling. And that's really to help you master the marketplace. All right. So with that said, y'all have a phenomenal rest of your Monday. And I'll see you next week for our new series. All right. Bye, y'all.